Hello, here we are once again with Mookie Tenembaum. We are exploring through these videos his philosophy, his disillusionism, and trying to understand the misalgic theory of human behavior as mainly aversion to suffering. As many of you already know, week after week, month after month, since almost the beginning of this ongoing pandemic, we are now in late February 2022, we've been trying to apply some of these concepts, some of the elements in these philosophical systems to everyday life, to actual matters going on in the world, sometimes following the news. And today we are going to do a second installment on the topic we covered the week before, which is the topic of egospheres in terms of the philosophical system. It's our relationship to others, not only other human beings, but also other stuff around us. It might be an object, it might be an illusion. How do we relate to whatever surrounds us, whatever affects us, whatever makes us suffer from a disillusionist point of view? So egospheres too, from a disillusionist point of view.
Well, while I'm going to try to summarize the first chapter in a few words, I highly recommend see the first chapter, which I think it's rich enough and will probably help even to understand this one more. But I'll try anyway to summarize it. Basically, egosphere is a metaphor. It comes from heliosphere. Heliosphere is the sun and the planetary system, all our planetary system in which we are supposed to be there. And all around the sun, and there is a sun in the middle. So it's called heliosphere. It's the sphere around the helios, the sun. Egosphere is each one of us has a sphere of sorts of people or objects or illusions. Mostly people, of course, yes. So it could be your brother, your sister, could be a friend, could be the waiter that just brought you some coffee, could be your favorite cigarette lighter, or could be your dog. Could be a god, could be an NFL team, anything goes. And that's part of the egosphere. What is the thing that all these parts have in common? Two things. One, that I realized that, and here I go, that there is an actual realization, a subjective feeling that now or in the future, each one of these parts may affect me algically. That means maybe a source of suffering or relief or distraction, any of the three. So those are, they are not indifferent to me from the suffering, from the averting of suffering point of view. Since all we do is averting suffering, the egosphere will be, it's represented by exactly that quality. We may know other qualities of people, but the ones that matter to us are the ones that are related to what we think are their potential of them in the future or in the present to cause, as I say, suffering, relief, or distraction. This is what an egosphere is about. And the most important, the issue that I wanted to add a lot is the whole idea of the subjectivity of this. You see, suffering is a subjective feeling, totally subjective. There is no such a thing as objective suffering. Okay, there is no, you don't deserve that suffering, or you didn't earn the right to suffer that, or the other way around. Yes, you're suffering because you probably did something wrong. There is something about the suffering that is not objective. It is totally subjective. So a person who has visions, yes, and sees delusions, and that delusion makes him suffer, he is suffering, period. Now, you may decide to do something about it or not. You may decide to help that person. You may decide, no, he doesn't deserve my help. He shouldn't be suffering. Yes, or he's a crybaby, or she's a crybaby, or they are a crybaby, and they don't deserve to be helped. It doesn't matter. So, but it is totally subjective. And any attempt to make it objective will only confuse us. Okay, so this is the issue of the subjectivity. And I wanted to go to a second part, and that is what are the things that can be that are there in my egosphere. We talked about people, Okay, and I said it could be a dog, it could be a cigarette lighter, a pen, doesn't matter whatever, a lamp, but a specific one. It has to be a specific thing, yes? Could be your lucky $1 bill. It doesn't matter. It's not money, okay? It's that thing. That means that if they get lost or they get damaged, yes, it may become a reason for suffering, yes? So they are in suffering. But what about illusions? Well, the United States of America. Well, I can say what the United States of America can be in my egosphere. Yes, mostly on July 4th or in the middle of, or the beginning of a war. But it doesn't matter. And it could be the Broncos, Denver Broncos. It could be, you know, anything, any team in the world or anything. So the illusions, Florencio, are part of our, they can get into egosphere with one exception. We said family is an illusion. In this case, family is not. We're talking about members of the family, very specific members. They could be in our egosphere. What do you think about this, Florencio?
Yeah, I follow the whole idea of the subjective nature of the egosphere. I understand how it's not actual people or real stuff that have a place in it. It's the subjective representation of them that actually can affect us. And if we don't notice them, and if we don't believe in them, they will not be able to affect us. But I wanted to take you back to the limit of this ecosystem of sorts, because to me, the most counterintuitive part of the model is precisely how limited it is, how small it's presented. It's very few of these subjective representations that, according to the egosphere model, can at a certain moment affect us. So maybe we can deal with that for a while.
Well, first of all, we have two elements that we have to take in account. You know, we can only attend to a very few amount of people. We can't have in our brain 1,000 people. I really ask anybody, just imagine 100 people, not 1,000. Imagine 100. You can't. With specific, yes? 100 people. Can you imagine that? No, you cannot. We are not equipped for that. We are part of we used to be part of a pack that used to have 20, 30 people probably, not more than that. We're not talking about a tribe. Yes, we're talking about a pack. And from then on, evolution didn't change a lot about from that time. There was not enough time for us to evolve much further than that. So no, we can a little bit more, but not much more. So the question is this: how do we represent, how these parts of the egosphere appear inside of me? Those are 20, 30 people. So the answer is they're avatars. That means, I'll take an example that is very easy. Florencio is in my egosphere, obviously. But when I'm not talking with Florencio like now, yes, if after this call, I will go to my room and put another shirt, a different shirt, and then Florencio will not be there, but his avatar will be there. So if I'm thinking about Florencio will have certain qualities, which is, of course, the qualities could be intelligent, good friend. I could say bad things about him, but I will leave it for the Spanish version. But that's it's not all Florencio. Yes, I know certain objective, or I think I know certain objectives. He has a heart, he has 2 kidneys, but that's not part of the whole thing. Now, what does it mean that I have avatars? It means that whatever I feel it's related, could be, once again, the source of suffering, relief, or distraction. So those are the facts of the avatars. Now the question is, how far, how big is my egosphere? Now, the word that comes to mind is horizon. You know, if you sit in the beach, if you stand in the beach and you watch, you know, to the sea, you know, to the end of the sea, you know what is the distance you are seeing? Only 4.5 kilometers. That's about 3.5 miles. That's it. Of course, you know there is much more after that. Yes, no, you're not falling. Well, most cases you don't fall down into a pit. it continues. But that you know about, like I know you have two kidneys. Yes. So this is the limit. The horizon is very small, the real horizon. And the egosphere will not be very much different. Of course, I'm not talking about distance. Yes, I'm talking about emotional distance. I'm talking about algic distance. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Florencio.
Absolutely. But you covered, I guess, the spatial limitations of the egosphere, so to speak. I ask you about the limitations in time now, because this is not always there. I mean, we've discussed this many times about other topics. At least while we are sleeping, nothing affects us, nothing alleviates us. I mean, nothing distracts us. We are asleep. So at least 4 hours a day, one should admit there is no egosphere out there, right?
There is few concepts in disillusionism that I will say make elicit so much resistance, and one of them is intermittency. That means things are intermittent. Your love for your children, you love your children, if you're lucky, 2 minutes a week. The rest of the time, you're not thinking about them. No, not in that way. See, as you may think that he may need a new coat, or she should get a new dress, or whatever. Yes, that is not. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about the feeling. So feelings are there. They're intermittent, and that makes people very nervous. No, but under, I'm sure I am feeling. No, there is no under. There is only you can only attend one thing. You cannot attend three. It's just one feeling. You don't have. You never have three feelings. I have mixed feelings. You don't have mixed feelings. You have intermittent feelings. Yes. So intermittency, the most important intermittent moment, the most clear one is when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, you don't laugh, you don't hate, you don't have egospheres, you don't suffer. And you are not going to suffer. I'm not talking about when you dream. I'm talking about not the 6 minutes you dream in a night. When in the dreamless part, in fact, you're not there. It's a very good simulacra of death, going to sleep. It's probably about the same. So what we are talking about now is that the egosphere is intermittent. And it's intermittent because you cannot have 20 people at the same time doing things to you. It's just not going to happen. So even if you are dealing with 2 or 3 people, it is intermittent. It goes in from one to the other and the other one to the other. Normally, it's really one person that you can really at that moment have an egospheric relation. But egosphere is it's like life. It's the whole thing. It's looking from the top. Not, although egosphere is of course totally subjective, but we are trying to understand it. Was I clear?
Yeah, I get it. We are almost out of time already, and I think we'll go back to this type of problems in future videos. But before we leave, I have 2 things I'd like us to mention, I guess. One has to do with the ongoing pandemic and some analysis we've shared over the past videos. The fact that we are doing this over Zoom, the fact that we are posting this on YouTube is part, I guess, of an ongoing change that is bound to alter our egospherical relationships as telecommunications and screens and phones take a bigger and bigger part in our life. And I also, in connection to this, want to ask you about what one could call familiarity and changes, and how do these affect the way we sleepwalk within our egosphere?
Well, they are both related, because familiarity on one hand, yes, and confusion is the opposite. Now, one of the things that Facebook and other social media done, they have confused us who is in our egosphere. If you ask people, people may get the wrong thing. He made me a like. Maybe at that point, he comes into your egosphere and then he leaves. Then he's gone. Yes, the people who are there in your egosphere probably are not on Facebook. They could be also on Facebook as well. But this is not what we're talking about. So they are confused. Why is so important? Because familiarity, which is the opposite of confusion, familiarity is our insurance that we can sleepwalk. That means we can suffer less. If things are not familiar to us, if we cannot predict things, if the person looks different every time. Do you understand? It is very hard to ignore them, because the whole idea of sleepwalking is ignoring them. You can, it's being absent-minded. You just walk and you go to the bus, and you don't thinking about all this. You are sleepwalking. You are running a program. That's what you are doing. But it's very hard if they keep changing your bus stops every day. Where is the bus stop? Where is the bus stop? Where is the bus stop? Sometimes there is a bus. Sometimes there is not. The familiarity is so important. That's the reason in your egosphere, the more stable your egosphere is, the better it is sleepwalk-wise, and therefore you suffer less.
Absolutely. Very good. We're done. We're out of time. I'm completely out of time, but we'll go back to the others and our relationship to them, I'm sure, in future videos.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
If you enjoyed the video, please like it, comment and subscribe.